Hey there everybody, thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll continue on my journey with Dragon Ball Z. I'm on volume 12. Right out the gate, love the drawing on the cover. I oftentimes like these cover images a lot better than what's going on in the book. And I think, like, if you've been watching this series of videos, you know that I'm quite a fan, or becoming quite a fan, of Toriyama as like a humor cartoonist and not quite a fan of the action stuff. So I know I should be reading Dragon Ball first, but this is what we have in the house, so this is what we're doing. I also got very excited when I opened the book, and we're at what I assume is the end of the Frieza saga. We're coming to the final battle, and we get Goku as a Super Saiyan now. So we've gone there in the story, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, man, Toriyama's actually drawing some like pretty accurate, like well drawn but stylized, really cool looking anatomy. And that's something I've been complaining about in the series, is that his anatomy looks to me like crappy little like muscle man figures. They look very stiff. So I think, oh good, we're finally going to get some cool anatomy in the battle scenes. And then I flip to the first page of story and see this drawing here, which I don't know if Frieza's arm's being broken. It just looks like he's throwing some power balls in this one, but that is the wackiest shoulder to chest to arm raised in the air connection I've ever seen. It makes no sense. So immediately dashed my hopes that there would be decent buff guy anatomy in this. But the fight does come to an end pretty quickly, which I'm happy about, because I always kind of like the interstitial stuff more than the fights. But this is a pretty cool image here where Frieza gets cut in half by his own energy that he's thrown, and it loops back on him. And oh, big cool moment. But I never get too excited about deaths in Dragon Ball, because I think we've established at this point that those won't last. The anatomy woes continue on in the early story. So by page 20, we have Goku walking away, and his arm's on backwards. Like, this one's actually got a couple attempts at triceps. And then this arm here, even though the hand's the proper way, just has a bicep on the back, and then triceps and it may be a hint at a brachioradialis, or maybe an elbow there. So absolute garbage nonsense anatomy in this, which is frustrating after that opening thing. Then we get back to Earth, and we meet up with everyone there. We find out that Frieza and Goku are probably both in trouble because they're not going to get off the planet. And on Earth, though, they've found out that they've brought the Dragon Balls of Namek back with them. And unlike the Dragon Balls of Earth, the Namekian Dragon Balls can be used to revive people as many times as they want. So there was like only one undoozies on death earlier, and now there's infinite undoozies on death. And I say very specifically infinite undoozies, because it's starting to feel even more so like playing a game with a kid, where it's just like, I've got a force field. Well, my gun beats your force field. Well, I have a force field beating gun beating force field. It's just that kind of shit over and over. So emotional investment continues to go out the window. When planet Namek blows up, I like that image. It's very sparse. I like these images as well. They're kind of cool. But I have no fear that Goku actually made it off of Namek. We get an acknowledgement that Goku is often We also get this sequence here where the dragon is being asked to bring Goku home, and Goku's refusing for some reason. He's off somewhere learning something else. So he's always this absentee father, and here you have immediately the master guy. They're like, why doesn't he want to come home? And he said, well, he's afraid to go home because he's scared of his wife, and we know who the real strongest in the universe is. Those are the moments where I enjoy this book the most, and that's what I was saying with the cover, is like, this drawing of the Turtle Man is awesome. Like, Toriyama's a great cartoonist, and he's also very good at humor. Like, this is a funny little piece right here. So these interstitials where the story is transitioning from one to another usually get more of that, and I enjoy them quite a bit more in those moments. Got a really big groan out of me when I turned the page and saw that Frieza's already back. He's obviously, Goku's a dumbass, and Goku never kills anyone, so he's gone off and patched himself back together, and now has gone and got his father, King Cold, and we're being introduced to these characters. Like, oh god, we're not done with this saga yet. there's a sense even in Toriyama himself that he's not enjoying this cycle. Like right here, we have this character say, "You mean I came back to life just so I could die again?" So he's acknowledging even in the dialogue that this cycle is getting a little tiresome, I think. And also in the front, you have these things that accompany each volume, and Toriyama's talking about needing to be someone who has stuff to be involved in, someone who's really needs to be working or they're going to go nuts. And at the end of it, he said it would be really nice if work was one of the things I could get involved in. So that's kind of a hint to me that he's not particularly into even what he's doing here. His own rules have been broken so many times, and he's just trying to keep this whole thing rolling, is what it feels like. That carries on when now we get a new character introduced who's, not given a name at first, but we're going to find out real quick that this character's name is Trunks. He's a Super Saiyan, and there's some other things we're going to learn about him. So right out the gate, we're going to introduce another Super Saiyan all of a sudden out of nowhere. There's only supposed to be 3 alive, but now there's 4. So just this constant, breaking of the parameters that have been set. And then, luckily for me, very quickly, this Trunks character just demolishes Frieza and his father, just totally obliterates them. So puts a close to that chapter, hopefully. I thought, oh god, we're going to have another 4 volumes of fighting here before Goku even gets back again. But we have these characters get killed very quickly by Trunks. Trunks seems to be working for a company called Capsule Corps that seems like maybe was part of Dragon Ball, but since I haven't read that, I don't know. There's a really fun idea here of like a portable freezer that he just whips out this little pill and tosses it on the ground. So I think that's what the Capsule Corp is a company who has these capsules that kind of can transport larger things. Those ideas are a lot of fun, and the way he draws it's a lot of fun. Those ideas are really cool. So again, I get it. I should probably just go back to Dragon Ball because that seems to be where more of that stuff is. Of course, Goku shows up late as always. He's definitely the absentee father and really not a hero that's easy to get behind. But he's been off pissing around training. He shows up late, which is kind of weird and silly and crazy because immediately after showing up late, he lets everyone know that he's learned how to teleport. So I guess he could have just teleported, but he didn't. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are, how they're going to change throughout the series. But Goku's late as always, even though he can teleport. Then, even worse, even more fear for me for what's going to come. We find out that Trunks is from the future, so now we've got a time travel story going on. And then we find out that he has Saiyan blood because he is the son of Bulma and Vegeta. And everyone's like, what? That's not going to happen. Da, da, da. So he's a kid from the future. He's a Saiyan. Then we learn about the setup for the next major storyline that's coming. There's a guy named Dr. Garo, and there's a suggestion here that this is someone that they had a battle with previously, his Red Ribbon Army. So it sounds like that's something that happened in Dragon Ball. But he's going to create some cyborgs that are going to come beat up the Earth. So everyone just decides to take off and go train. Some of them train together, some of them train apart, and then they're going to meet back up in 3 years to beat these androids. There's a sequence where they're talking about needing to go training and everything, where they say, well, hey, it's 3 years before these androids happen. Let's just go get this guy who creates him and stop it from ever happening in the first place. And all the guys are like, no, I don't want to stop him now because I want to fight these things that have supposedly already killed us once. And they're all about I want to do the battle. And the girls here are like, this is crazy, I'm sick of this. And so Bulma is saying, it sure is a pain in the butt for civilized people like me to have to deal with you guys. And that's kind of how I'm feeling too. Just as characters, I find them really irritating and despicable characters that they're like, yeah, let's go ahead and risk Earth blowing up because we want to get in a battle. And then they kind of say, well, we don't want to get this guy in trouble for something he hasn't done yet. But they're really just using that as an excuse to battle someone harder than them. So I don't understand that. I don't get war. I just don't get this whole wanting to battle just for the sake of battle. Even though I'm a huge fan of MMA and all that, I totally get it in real life. Like, in this context, it makes no sense. Stop the robot guy, man. We have some very strange scenes here at home where Goku's home with his wife Chi-Chi, and they're kind of arguing about this, where she's saying, like, this is ridiculous, like, you're just going in training, you're worried about getting stronger, like, what about Gohan's education? So he's being a terrible father and getting chewed out for being a terrible father, and then he just, like, backhands her. He says, you're crazy, and backhands her all the way through the wall out to here, and then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. But, like, why is he backhanding her in the first place? So now he's like a father who's absentee all the time, and he's beating his wife. I don't know. Then we now take a big time jump. Any of the interesting character development stuff is overlooked, and we time jump to the next battle 3 years in the future. We have Bulma here. She's got Trunks now as a baby, and no one can figure out how Goku knows all this because he never told them. And then we get introduced at the very end. The cliffhanger is we have these two, I'm assuming these are the androids, and they've already blown up a city. So I guess now heading into volume 13, there's just going to be a big battle with these robots. So I will say I really enjoyed the come down from the first big battle, like in volume 4 or 5, and I was really looking after like a 3-4 volume battle of these ones to get more of the character development, more of the setting up the next thing, more of the comedy and humorous moments in there. But it was just like, I felt like a lot of swerving and red herring where Toriyama was trying to feel out what he wanted to do next. Like, oh, I'm going to bring back these characters. Wait, no, I don't actually want to do more time with Frieza. I got to come up with something else. We'll bring in another Saiyan. Like, it just feels like he's, like he said, he's not involved in the work anymore. He's just kind of winging it, story from story, and changing his mind. That's how it feels like to me. So a little bit more skeptical about moving forward from here, but I'm about halfway through now, so I might as well finish it. They don't take long to read, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe he gets some steam going back in the later volumes.
Back to the land, let's get away, just for one day. Let me see you stripped down to the bone. Let me see you stripped down to the